Setting up online lectures and seminars from scratch when you're used to a classroom or a lecture theatre can be pretty challenging. In this video I'm going to share the basics that I've learned as I've set up online educational content using a green screen and a mini studio. In 7 key points I'll tell you about the equipment, the software and techniques I've used to record lectures and stream live seminars. I'll be talking about laptops, green screens, lights, sound, teleprompters, cameras, and a little about how I set them up for both recording and live broadcast. Hello, I'm Ivan and welcome to my YouTube channel, and thanks for clicking your way in. If you find this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe, and I'll share with you my experiences as I hopefully get a little bit better at delivering this online content. To give you some background, I'm a lecturer and a programme leader in higher education in the UK, and as a result of the worldwide adjustments to the way education is being delivered, my colleagues and I have had to adapt quickly to ensure our students get quality online content. Now, I'm not a YouTuber, an influencer or a vlogger, and I'm certainly not an expert in AV production. I'm sure there's going to be expert YouTubers out there saying that you're doing this all wrong, there's better ways of doing it. So just let me be clear. These are just my experiences, and hopefully I can help you a little bit in the first steps into online content. I'm going to try and approach this from a general perspective for recording lectures, and then explain what I do differently for seminars as they are live, interactive experiences, a bit different. So I'm going to record a deeper dive into live broadcasts, and I'll talk through how I set up a seminar on its own. It may be obvious to some why I'm developing online content and even taking steps into green screen production. But for me, it's part necessity. I don't want to interrupt a study programme more times than I need to, so continuity is important to me and my students. Also, I feel that since students are paying a lot of money to study here in the UK, then they surely deserve the best efforts. So let's get into the key points. So number one, the laptop. I found that my early 2015 MacBook Pros only just about capable of handling the software needed to pull everything together. It had 8 GB of RAM, a dual-core processor. It could do everything I needed except from consistent green screening. Sometimes it would, and then other times, for example, when you're using a Zoom background, the solid colour of a polo shirt would be transformed into a leafy field or an anatomical model, whatever. The thing I had to realise is that it was probably 2012 technology. Switching to a 6-core 2019 MacBook Pro with 16 GB of RAM has solved everything. It works reliably in all the software I use. I'm also convinced that a quad-core processor will be just as good, but since it was 5 years since I bought my last laptop, I wanted to future-proof as much as I could. I don't use PCs, but apart from one piece of software that I use, which is Mac only, all laptops, as far as I'm aware, will be just as good as long as they have those processing capabilities. Number two, the camera. For my main camera, I use a Canon M50, which is a mirrorless DSLR. It's got a standard 15 to 45mm f3.5 6.3 kit lens. The software I just mentioned for the Mac has a virtual cam feature that doesn't need a capture card, so I use the micro USB to straight connect into my USB adapter. You lose a tiny bit of quality, but I'm perfectly happy with it, and I'm using this right now. I also use a run-of-the-mill Vitade 960A HD webcam, which was around £77 on Amazon, and occasionally I use my iPhone as a third camera in seminars. There's a great app called Shoot, which gives your laptop a clean feed from your iPhone, and the quality is excellent. One caveat though, if your software doesn't handle virtual cam, then you'll need a micro HDMI USB adapter, capture card, such as an Elgato Camlink 4K. If I could show you quickly a little bit of a difference between the cameras that I use. This is the Canon EOS M50 that I'm looking at straight now. If I bring in the USB cam, there you go, we're not using green screen on that. But if I change a few settings and move me slightly over to one side so you've got the same perspective with both cameras, I can easily bring in a green screen background, and you can see the difference. If I just take away our picture of the camera, you can see that pretty much there's a fairly comparable image. The webcam is perhaps slightly glitchy sometimes on the, I can see a little bit of sort of bleaching around about here. but pretty good overall. There is an adjustment I can make within the software which could get rid of that. And the colour white balance is pretty good for a £77 camera. The Canon camera is £450 minimum, possibly up to £600 depending where you buy it from. Of course, if you want to keep it really simple, you could just record straight to your SD card. That just slots into your DSLR camera and transfer the file to your computer for editing. In this case, you don't need any fancy software or a capture card. I mostly record in one place with one of two setups, either a green screen or my little studio. So recording straight from my laptop gives me other options, such as changing cameras on the fly or adding overlays, which is what I've been doing here, taking them on, putting them off. So I use the same setup, it makes it much easier. It also means less setting up time, and since my job is mainly preparing academic work, I'm not an AV expert, it works fine for me. There's plenty of great software out there to help you do that, but I'll cover that in more depth in another video. So number 3 is the audio. Everything I read and everything I watch when researching my setup steer me towards the notion that you can be forgiven for losing a little bit of video quality, but people will switch off pretty quickly if the production sounds terrible. I use a Rode Wireless Go lav mic, and you could easily spend less, but I use the mic for my double bass as well, and I'm playing live, so it was a no-brainer for me. Simple to set up, reliable quality. You can either put the audio straight into your camera if you're using the DSLR, and also if it has an external mic, or you can put it into an audio interface straight into your laptop, which is what I do. You could easily use audio from a webcam or from a headset or something like that, and there are much more affordable options. But I think it's worth spending a little extra on a good product. If you shop around, you can pick up a Rode Video Micro for under £50. The larger version is about £60 to £80. They're great shotgun mics that sit on top of a camera, and they pick up some fantastic audio. Number 4 is lights. If you choose not to use a green screen, then some affordable LEDs such as the Neewer dimmable 176 LED video lights, and are fantastic for anything where the camera lights are maybe 1 to 2 meters away from the subject. Light drops off quickly with distance, and one thing I learned is that you always need more light. LED light can be a little harsh sometimes, and some traditional soft boxes can look a little bit better, but you need this space for them. They're pretty large. So unless you're going to be using a very big studio area and a 3-point lighting system, then the standard LEDs are just fine. Putting a little nylon silk over them or a diffuser helps soften the light, and you can do quite a lot with them. I think that overall £200 will buy you a full lighting kit, but you can spend a lot less, down to £30, £40, £50 quite easily. If you're planning on using a green screen, it's become apparent to me that the correct lighting is essential. I use 2 large Neewer 1 lights side by side and an extra 176 LED light at the top to spread the light out. Again, a 3-point lighting around the subject allows you to have a bit of an adjustment for auto white balance, and the background becomes less of a problem. The key thing to understand is that if you're going to light a green screen, it's got to be done evenly, otherwise you get little artifacts appearing in the background. This sometimes happens as well if you can't get the screen itself smooth, but light it around 50-60% of the subject lighting and you're pretty much good to go. To speed things up, I use a green screen app, and that saves me quite a lot of time on setup. I just point the app at the screen, it tells me where the hotspots are, and I can dial them out on the dimmable settings on the LED lights. So all in all, it's a fairly straightforward setup. Number 6 is a teleprompter. I'm not completely convinced about these yet, but we'll see. It's by no means essential and not too easy to come by at the time of making this video. It does cut down the number of takes sometimes. It helps a little bit with planning because I can see how much waffle I normally put into my lectures. I patiently waited for this Best View teleprompter to arrive from China. It took about 2 weeks to arrive, and to be honest, I can't fault it. I wouldn't want it taking up and down too much, it's a little bit delicate, but I don't use my camera for anything else, so I just leave it on and it works just fine. A bit fiddly sometimes. Number 7, the recording streaming software itself. Now, because I use a Mac and I have no capture card, I chose Ecamm Live. You pay an annual fee, but if you're going to be doing this a lot, then perhaps that's worth it. This only operates on Mac, but there are plenty of options out there such as Streamlab and StreamYard, OBS and OBS itself. There's loads and loads of YouTube videos to guide you, and if I could quickly show you what the desktop looks like. There are a few extra overlays that I generally use, but this takes me into a whole environment where I can mess about with things like I can take a green screen on and off. I could change my background very straightforward, really quick. You can see when my mouse is moving, and if I was to just say I just want to sit in front of the LED light, well, there I can do that. Pretty straightforward overall. Go with a standard background from the software itself. There are other ways you can do, so if I change to something like I'm looking at camera effects right now, but I can look at things like scenes and overlays, which is, you can't quite see that if I move myself out of the way. Make myself a bit smaller, then you can see that there's information there, and these are just the different scenes that I come into. So if I want to quickly jump back to my bumper, pretty straightforward, and I'm back to the screen I was on. So Ecamm itself is a fairly useful setup. I think it's very intuitive, it's very straightforward. Like I said, I'm no AV expert at all. I've tried my best to work this out as I've gone along. I've made mistakes, I've bought things perhaps I shouldn't have done, but overall it's been a reasonably cost-effective setup, and I've managed to set a basic studio and a basic green screen up for lectures and seminars. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've got something out of it. If you feel that you may want a little bit more information, then you want to click on subscribe. I'll do a separate video for online seminars, which are done in a live situation. I would just mention that if you don't have to have fancy software, you can use something like Zoom and just record straight into it. It even has green screen backgrounds. So, you don't have to go the full way. If you just have a basic camera, basic laptop, and a basic green screen, you can do quite a lot. Like I said, another video coming where I'll go into the lectures and into the seminars in a little bit more detail. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and if you feel like it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you very much.